like button in the audience, please. What's happening, guys? What's up, Wayno? What's up, Karen? Hughes Fox. What's up, Julie? Crazy Dog. Hi, Nancy. What's up, Yakov? What's up, Cam? Al, how are you? Sam J, what's going on?
Conserved since the time of lobsters, right? There weren't trees around when lobsters first manifested themselves on the planet.
All right, what's up, guys? How's everybody doing? I appreciate you joining me once again. It's Thursday, October 23rd, 2025. Lots to dive into. Let's not forget we have our VIP Zoom tonight. So if you want to sign up at patreon.com/BostonBrian anytime before the Zoom, I'll send out the link just after the podcast, and that'll give you access to that. You can also send a Venmo to the QR code just up in the corner there. It would go a long way in helping this channel. You can become a channel member just underneath me. Here on YouTube for about $2.99 a month. You can also gift memberships, send super chats, super stickers, that whole rigmarole. And again, it really goes a long way in helping the channel. But let's get into thanking and, saying hi to the old Chatsky. How are you guys doing? What's up, Gamer? What's up, Carl? Appreciate you, buddy. Good seeing you. What's up, Heidi, Pam, Coco, W, Denise, Evie Zahn? Thank you to everybody on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, whatever you're watching on. Please make sure to hit that, whether it's a like or a thumbs up or whatever it may be on your respective platform. But please also thinking about subscribing to the channel as well. We're on our way to 15K, trying to break the 14K mark because that's just how numbers work. But we will get there. We're going to be focusing on a few different things today, mainly the ongoing discussion and kind of great representation of what Donald Trump is doing to our democracy and what is going on with the East Wing right now. We have a lot of not only right-wing MAGA people applauding it and, looking like North Korea propaganda for this, but we have people calling it out as well. We'll also be talking about a little more information has come out on these new Russian sanctions on the Russian oil company. So I wanted to make sure that we, get the best information out of that so we can be, as informed as possible in figuring out what's going to happen with that, because there are a little bit more details coming out about that overnight. So I really do appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for coming back in every single show and, showing your appreciation. I really do appreciate it. What's up, Alyosha? What's up, Kat Jam? Appreciate you guys. Forever Young. Red, what's going on? Thank you so much. Please make sure you hit that like button. It's really important that you do so. But before we dive into, obviously, the East Wing destruction and what's going on with the new Russian sanctions, what do you say we dive right into this story? Because the U.S. once again, and even above and beyond the one that we reported on yesterday's show, has taken out another illegal strike on an alleged drug smuggling boat. This is the second one now in the Pacific, this time killing 3 people, as reported by the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. This video being posted along with it, but this is just a quick 2-minute video from today on the latest strike. I just want to see if it gives us any more information as to, what was going on, what they say was being carried, which is kind of crazy too. And we'll dive into it a little deeper, but, to try to pin Venezuela, try to pin the fentanyl coming into our country on Venezuela, when we know that most experts and most people studying the subject will rightly and obviously tell you that it comes from Mexico. And, like the distribution from China and like the fact that, we know Venezuela does have its own issues with drugs, but it's not fentanyl, right? So anyways, let's see if we can dive into this. And again, let's just go through a few of these stories before we dive into it. So we'll be obviously talking about the destruction from the East Wing in the White House and the, the outrage and the representation, the visual representation and the metaphor this kind of gives the entire Trump presidency. We'll be talking about, is it legal? Is it illegal? Does this, the 1966 act that, everybody's talking about that the White House is exempt from, does that matter? Typically it's gone through congressional approval for any major renovations or constructions. We'll be going over what we know about, some of the more well-known renovations to the White House. So not only that, but what do we say? We have, oh yeah, remember when Donald Trump said that this wasn't going to involve the White House? This wasn't going to touch the White House. We have him saying that as well. There's a bunch of these stories. There's, some professionals here. Former White House historian gives his opinion on the whole matter. Jesse Waters and crew doing their propaganda. Who else? Benny Johnson's got a good propaganda video on this. Benny Johnson was on with Newsmax, trying to applaud Donald Trump. So we'll be calling out that bullshit. Glenn Beck was trying his best to do some damage control with Stu, because Stu, his little sidekick, and we haven't talked about Glenn in a long time, but Stu, his little sidekick, seemed to have a few more questions as to, the legalities of this whole thing. And, Glenn was trying to calm him down the whole time. And then, like I said, we'll be getting into the new sanctions on the Russian oil companies and what those entail, Russia's response to those sanctions. Going even a step further, and the U.S. is now lifting key restrictions on Ukraine's use of European long-range missiles. So kind of like this complete 180 we've seen in just the latest couple days. And then again, just to highlight, what's been going on, we have another video from Preston Stewart, somebody that we've been watching a lot of lately here, has been doing great coverage of this situation. So we've got all that to dive into. Please hit that like button. I'm Boston Brian. This is Blunt Politics. I really appreciate you for joining me. What do you say we dive into this first video here, kind of giving us a little bit more information about the second strike in the Pacific waters by the United States, and I believe the 8th or 9th overall strike on what they're declaring a drug smuggling boat. So what do you say we dive into this? Thank you guys once again. Thank you to all the mods. I appreciate you for keeping that chat a safe place. And thank you to all the chatters in there, throwing the emojis, making sure the algorithm knows that you guys are staying involved. So I appreciate you guys. Let's dive in.
Overnight, the Trump administration announcing the U.S. military blew yet another alleged drug smuggling boat out of the water. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth sharing this video of the airstrike on social media, saying 3 narco-terrorists were killed.
Okay, so that's 5 just since yesterday. So that was 5 just yesterday, supposedly killed by the United States, per the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. We showed the video yesterday of the first one, supposedly took out 2, second one supposedly taking out 3. But again, if you go back and listen to our conversation yesterday, I think we make some great points both in the chat and, here, in me as well, when we talk about, the 2 people that were surviving. I believe it was an Ecuadorian and a Colombian that was survivors of one of these strikes, and they were just let go. They were just repatriated to their countries. Again, not charged with narco-terrorism, not charged with drug trafficking, not charged with drug smuggling, not charged with anything. Just repatriated to their countries, which kind of raises a lot of red flags, a lot of questions as to whether or not they do have, factual and substantial evidence to prove that these people are actually breaking law or smuggling drugs. Anyway, so, to go back, if you haven't seen it, go back and check out yesterday's podcast, and we do a great discussion on that, on the first strike. Again, this being the second strike in the Pacific, the other one's being carried out in the Caribbean. Oh, thank you, Angela. I appreciate that. Congratulations on being a member for 15 months. Thank you so much. And anybody that reaches a milestone or sends a super chat, a super sticker in the chat during the show, stick around till the end of the show, and I give everybody a highlight, a shout out, a little show of appreciation, and make sure that everybody, kind of gets their 2 seconds in the spotlight for, again, going the extra mile in financially helping contribute to this, independent media in general. So thank you, Angela. I really do appreciate it. Yeah, again, I saw World War III go by there. But yeah, I mean, again, the president of peace, ladies and gentlemen, now has another 3 added to the notches on his belts. That's, above and beyond the 1 million plus that he's responsible for the death of after COVID and his mishandling of that. So just, again, the president of peace, the one that's trying to actively start a war with Mexico, as we reported on yesterday's podcast as well. That guy is, president of peace.
He revealed a separate strike killed 2 other people. President Trump saying similar strikes could eventually happen on land.
We will hit them very hard when they come in by land, and they haven't experienced that yet, but now we're totally prepared to do that. We'll probably go back to Congress and explain exactly what we're doing when we come to the land.
The Trump administration
will probably go back and explain to Congress. I'm sorry, when you go and murder people using the country's military. You're probably going to run that by Congress at some point, similar to what's going on, again, the way he's handling this whole East Wing construction or deconstruction, I should say, demolition. where he's, the red tape and the fucking loopholes and the gray areas surrounding that are exactly where he's living and trying to swim upstream and trying to get that done. Same thing.
Has now announced 9 airstrikes against alleged drug boats since early September, killing at least 37 people.
37 people killed, again, without releasing any evidence, anything to suggest that for 100%, certain that these people are doing exactly what you claim them to be doing. Nothing to suggest otherwise. Again, 35 or 37? 9 airstrikes and how many?
Drug boats since early September, killing at
37 people.
37 people. Most have been in international waters near Venezuela, but these latest strikes happened in the Eastern Pacific, not the Caribbean. Democrats in Congress are calling for hearings.
Why exactly are we using lethal force in an unprecedented way? There has been insufficient transparency and explanation. We don't even know exactly who is being hit.
Officials,
and I'm sorry, but if it's the question of the 2 people being released, and I did see actually that CNN was actually trying to track down the 2 people that were released, again, the Ecuadorian and the Colombian, if I'm not mistaken, to kind of figure out if they could do a little bit more, a deep dive into their background and see what actually was going on here. But if the Democrats here that are trying to, bring this to committee hearings and trying to, raise awareness and trying to, again, get to the bottom of this, if they don't actually bring up the fact that 2 people that survived these strikes were just let go, and how that, directly is in contradiction to, these are all terrorists. They're all fucking responsible for thousands of deaths of thousands of Americans, right? And, they will be prosecuted. And then that's why we're taking such violent and swift action. Doesn't really comport with, okay, I'm sorry about that. We know you survived. Here's a dry towel, a change of clothes, and you want to ride back to Ecuador, you want to ride back to Colombia. Doesn't really fit with what they've been saying.
Dominican Republic say they did recover cocaine from one of the boats destroyed in an airstrike. But the Trump administration has not presented evidence there were drugs in all of the boats.
And again, a war, we're now actively killing people in a war on cocaine, right? Like, I understand the risks and the health hazards and the dangers posed by that, but it's not the fucking 1980s in Miami, right? Like, you no longer see people with fucking machine guns going around the streets of Miami shooting people down for, like blocks and kilos of cocaine. Like, I thought fentanyl, I thought we were after fentanyl and like the other drugs that fentanyl might be laced with, because that is the biggest danger. That's what's killing the majority of people now that are dying from, overdose or drug related deaths. Right. So again, it's just, not really what they said they were trying to go after. But again, it doesn't really matter when you're talking about killing 37 individuals, again, without due process, without, proper checking of, to make sure that they are who you say they are criminals, they are transporting drugs. None of that so far has happened.
Republicans are questioning whether the strikes are legal.
The idea that they're coming here is like, it's a huge.
Right, and we've played some of Rand Paul's statements before, and like I said, when you're on the opposite side of Rand Paul, and Rand Paul seems to be like the voice of reason, at least in this particular situation, in calling for a little bit more transparency, and more congressional approval and congressional action, then you're on the wrong side of history. But speaking of wrong side of history and history in general, that kind of brings us to this story, which again has kind of captured, I think, the hearts and minds of a lot of people in this country, even if you're not necessarily as, tuned in politically, right? Just the historical significance of the White House, whether it be the East Wing, West Wing, Rose Garden, and then the utter, content in the utter, blatancy of the destruction of those areas by Donald Trump, without care or just approval from anybody, taking the necessary steps, is just ridiculous. Now take a look at this video, because now it's basically done. It's all gone. It's all gone. And remember when Donald Trump said this, ladies and gentlemen, remember when he said this? And just in case you haven't heard this before, let me play this for you. Remember when Donald Trump promised everybody, this is when, again, he lied straight to everybody's face, the media's face, his own people's face, MAGA's face, the citizenry, everybody's face, blatantly lied right to their face in this. Check this out. Ready?
It'll be built over on the east side. and it will be beautiful. It'll be views of the Washington Monument. It won't interfere with the current building.
It won't interfere with the current building.
It'll be near it, but not touching it.
It will be near it, but not touching it, right? So when he's talking about his Epstein ballroom, his new storage closet for the Epstein files that he's building, this was his promise to the people. This was his promise to the media, or at least his statement, right? That he came out with. Wasn't going to touch it, was going to have nothing to do. No new construction was going to have to take place. No demolition. The building wouldn't be touched. It would be close, but it wouldn't be touched.
And pays total respect to the existing building, which I'm the biggest fan of. It's my favorite. It's my favorite place. I love it.
So it pays total respect to the building, right? Pays total respect. And now we got this, ladies and gentlemen. Now we got this. So this is Donald Trump's respect he's showing for the building. This is again how much he loves it. And now the price has gone up on the ballroom too, if you didn't hear. It's now about $300 million for the ballroom. And I'm kind of curious because that seems to be only for the ballroom, right? Now, the East Wing, we know, offices and houses, some other offices and some other things, right? So now they're going to have to rebuild that. So what's going to be the added cost for, I don't know, the first lady's office or whatever else was in the East Wing? It's going to be added cost on top of that. Are these private donors? Are they also funding the reconstruction of the first lady's quarters there, the offices that she has in that the entire East Wing and what was in that to begin with? Because I haven't heard that been said yet. I haven't heard that been said. I know $300 million is going towards the actual ballroom itself, but what about the other things that you're now knocking down? That has not been talked about as far as I can see. And again, just a great metaphor. What an apt metaphor for this administration. Literally tearing down the White House in the middle of the fucking night, right? Under the cover of darkness, without going through the proper routes, without going through the proper steps, not owning the building, right? It's an historical site, which is another fucking crazy thing that we got to talk about. Like the town that I grew up in, right? The town that I grew up in was founded in 1644. 1644. Now, if you do your mathematical skills, right, that will lead you to the fact of that being well before the establishment of the United States. Okay, so 1644. And in the town that I grew up in, there are several areas of this town in which you need, if you do any construction, any painting, any renovations, any additions, anything like that, that you need to go through in a historical society, right? People that will come and say, okay, this is the way that your house needs to look, or it needs to be within this kind of, frame. You have these options that you can choose from your shutters to the paint color to, the architectural trim to the roof, whatever it may be. You have very strict guidelines that you must, abide by in order to fit the look of the community, to fit the look of this historical fucking site of which is, the entire, sections of these different communities in my town. So the fact that the White House wouldn't somehow, and I know it does, and I'm just kind of being a little facetious, and I'm just saying that this is what Donald Trump has completely, done the end around on and has totally bypassed, is like the fact that this needs to be approved by different congressional committees, right? Right. This also needs to be approved by, what is it? Let me see here. It also says, because this has a good article on it. When did I pull that up? So it was typically, did it name it in this one? Maybe it wasn't this one. And I'll have to pull it up. I'll look for it in a second after when one of these clips is playing. But it did kind of give the whole, the whole system is the way this is supposed to go. Oh, hold on. Let me see if I can pull this up. Let me see. I'll pull this up real quick and we can play this because I do remember a video I just watched. Give me a second. Bear with me. Bear with me. 1 second. History. And then it's going to be, I think it was an NBC clip, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, this one. Let me pull this one up for you guys.
Didn't actually demolish or remodel the White House? Technically, no. The White
House. Right, so I'm going to just play. This is a minute 31 clip posted by NBC 7 San Diego, just to kind of give you a little background as to what's going on here. So check this out.
Can the president actually demolish or remodel the White House? Technically, no. The White House doesn't belong to the president. It's federal property managed by the National Park Service and maintained by taxpayer money. So, while a president can pick the furniture, colors, or decorations, any major changes like tearing down walls or rebuilding require congressional approval and federal funding, according to the White House Historic Association and the National Park Service. The last time that happened was during Harry Truman's presidency.
And again, you can hear these same societies and historical, precedents are definitely set. When I was saying like the same thing happened in the town that I grew up in, like I was, of course, being facetious, like this would obviously be a thing for the White House, such a historical monument, such a historical site, right? You can't just go willy-nilly in there and be like, yeah, we'll knock that down. We're going to tear that down. We're going to build something over here. We'll do something over here. Like, that's not how it works. Not how it works, right? And, this kind of goes on to give you, a little bit of a rundown on how it's actually supposed to go.
The building was literally falling apart. Congress approved a full reconstruction in the late 1940s. But here's the twist. Under President Trump, a $200 to $250 million ballroom addition to the East Wing is underway, a 90,000 square foot expansion. The administration says the work can proceed because it's privately funded. The head of the National Capital Planning Commission...
Again, loophole number one that they're trying to use, because it's privately funded, which again shouldn't matter. They're also trying to say that the demolition is a separate construction project than the actual construction itself, which makes absolutely no sense if you've ever spent any time, on construction sites. There are different phases, but it's all, it's all under the same envelope. It's all under the same umbrella of the same construction project. It's just different steps in that project, right? So these are just some of the loopholes that they're trying to use here.
Appointed by Trump, has said the demolition and site prep don't need commission approval, since the jurisdiction only covers vertical construction. But critics argue that still violates federal preservation rules. Since the White House is a National Historic Landmark, federal law requires that major renovations follow preservation standards set by the National Historic Preservation Act and oversight by the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation.
And I'm just going to go out on a limb, and this fucking bright gold ballroom isn't exactly what the people had in mind. Just like, the Oval Office and now that gaudy mess and gold fucking room that he's got set up where he does his press conferences in isn't exactly what people had in mind. Like, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say probably wouldn't receive the proper approval had he decided to go through the proper channels, which is again why he's doing it the way he's doing it.
So, even if it's privately funded, it raises the question: can any president really make changes to the people's house? Should a sitting president have that kind of power? Share your thoughts in the comments.
And again, this isn't we're talking something that hasn't happened very often, right? Which is again why I think this is kind of captured, like I said, the hearts and minds of so many people. Like, let's see if we can go here. So we're talking, so here's just some of the more notable changes as reported here in this Al Jazeera. So 1901 to 1909, Theodore Roosevelt in 1902 removed old Victorian-style interiors. Howard Taft expanded the West Wing in 1909. Created the first Oval Office. FDR in 1933 to 1945 during World War II expanded the East Wing from an entryway to two-story structure purposely built to cover an underground emergency bunker, the Presidential Emergency Operations Center. Truman, one of the more notable and bigger changes in 45 to 53, workers gutted the internal structure to fix steel beams, concrete floors, leaving only the outer walls at some point. He also added controversial second floor, the Truman balcony on the south portico, which architectural purists argued clashed with the mansion's original 16th century Palladian style. Now, let's just kind of see how let's just try to envision how Donald Trump's golden ballroom would fit in with the 16th century Palladian style that, again, even Truman's balcony didn't really comport with. John F. Kennedy and Jackie Kennedy built the Situation Room and refurbished other rooms. Nixon added a bowling alley. Clinton improved security systems and internet connectivity. George Bush renovated the press briefing room, restored other rooms. Barack Obama installed Wi-Fi throughout the White House and the West Wing and adapted existing tennis courts for basketball, for a basketball court, which again, you'll hear something from the right wingers. They're just loving to throw that out there. So again, not many references, not many times that we can, have points in history to point back to have some I don't know, some 1-to-1 on this, because again, I'm sure the majority of these things were all done under congressional approval through the necessary channels with the fucking historical society going through and approving not only the plans, but also the construction methods and the materials used, right? Like, that's all things that need to be. And again, this isn't fucking Trump's house. It's unbelievable that we can, like, unreal. Unfriggin' real, right? So let's see. Well, we played. I'll play that. I want to try to get these out of here to make sure it's not slowing anything down. So we played that one. That's where he's actually demolishing this shit. Let's see here, because there's a couple clips too. Yeah, let's play this one for you guys, because here's a former White House historian, right? Somebody that knows the background, somebody that knows, the ins and outs and how this is supposed to work and the historical significance of the building. Let's take a look. And again, we won't get through this whole thing, but just I think the first few minutes will give you, a good example of the sentiment being felt by people that know the historical significance of what's being done right now. And again, as I keep saying, the apt visual representation of what Donald Trump's administration stands for as far as the destruction of the normalcy, the destruction of our governance in this country. And, basically stuff that we know to be set in stone, and that's the way it is. And, unfound, unchanging, and not weathered. Like, he's somehow finding a way to change and cause irreparable fucking harm to.
The New York Times is now reporting that the entire east wing of the White House is going to be torn down by this weekend, which is a pretty stunning thing, right? Trump had said this wasn't going to touch the White House. Now the entire east wing is going to be torn down by this weekend.
But why are people not putting more focus on that? Like, why is CNN, one of the largest news organizations on the fucking planet, not making more of a point to say, hey, the president lied directly to our faces. He lied directly to the media. He lied directly to the people. That doesn't matter if you're on the left or the right. He lied to your face when he said directly to you this was going to have absolutely no effect. And he knew why he was lying, because he knew the routes that he would have to take had he come out and said that, yes, we were going to be demolishing the entirety of the fucking East Wing, right? Not only would people be up in arms the way they are, but he would have been forced before it actually took place, at least put pressure on to go through the necessary and normal routes that presidents and others have taken when wanting to undertake a project. Nobody's even undertaken a project like this, so there's no really comparable thing, right? I know Truman's was extensive as well, but that was more necessary, right? That seemed like more necessary, to refurbish the steel beams and the concrete, right? That wasn't like, hey, I want a nice big shiny fucking room. That was more, structural and integral maintenance. It's unreal. It really is. And I'm sure people, again, you guys in the chat that have been around a lot longer than I have, I'm sure you guys have really strong feelings. So make sure you throw them in the chat. Let me know how you feel about this. And I know we have incredibly pressing issues to get through, as we always cover on this show. I know this is kind of not a side story, but obviously lives are in danger. Lives are at stake with a lot of these other stories, whether it be the Venezuelan boats, whether it be, the potential war with the Mexican cartels, whether it be the potential removal of Nicolas Maduro, or what's going on with Putin and what's going on with Ukraine and what's going on with Israel and what's going on with Gaza, what's going on with ICE in our own country, how important it is to make sure that we're highlighting good candidates for the midterms here in our own country, all of these things. And I know this might seem like something of a sideshow, but I do feel like this is, like I keep saying, just a very good visual representation, right? A visual metaphor for what we're seeing elsewhere being done by this administration. So I just kind of want to hear, again, people that have some emotional attachment, because of their love and history and studies of the history of the White House, how they feel about this.
The New York Times. I'll put up the picture.
And you'll notice on the bottom, and I'm blocking it off, but you'll notice on the bottom how it says the ballroom cost already up by $1 million. So don't be fucking surprised if the Epstein ballroom, by the time it's all said and done, is somewhere nearer to a half a billion dollars, right? More closer to the $500-600 million mark, especially when you talk about and adding in, they're going to have to rebuild and if I'm not mistaken, I could be mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but the East Wing housed the office of the First Lady, right? Now, like I said, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's going to have to be rebuilt. There was obviously other, other sections and other areas of the East Wing. But again, just to give you an example of that's probably going to have to be rebuilt at a cost, obviously, and that cost does not pertain to the actual ballroom, which the ballroom now is now $100 million more than it was just 2 days ago.
Showing a live camera of the actual demolition, and obviously it's a bit dark, but our photojournalist there is going to, be zooming in. We'll pull out a little bit.
I see you in there. I see you in there. That's what we should all be calling it. That should be the official name. Either that, he should be forced to dedicate that ballroom to the 1 million+ Americans that lost their lives because of his mishandling of COVID. I'd also accept that. That's also something that I would accept, a huge campaign, a huge push to, if there's no stopping this at this moment in time, right? If there's no recourse that we can take, that this should be forced to be dedicated. And every time he walks through those fucking doors, he should be reminded of the 1 million+ Americans that lost their lives thanks to his mishandling of COVID. Either that or the Epstein Ballroom or like the Epstein Storage Center, something like that. Anything like that, I'm willing to go with. But it should absolutely bring very negative connotations, very negative fucking thoughts and memories to this man's mind every single time he has to walk in there. And I'd still like to know the Flight 93 Ballroom would be great, something like that. Something to... something that, forces, like I said, a negative connotation every time you got to walk in.
If you can, just to see the proximity. Yep, here we go. Sorry. We're communicating here over earpiece. So you can see it right there next to the actual center of the White House itself. You are warning, Edward, that there could be a lot more surprises to come. I mean, this is a pretty big surprise. Not going to touch the White House and now demolishing the whole East Wing. What do you mean with more surprises?
Oh, sugar pie. I'm sitting here listening to my fucking clip. It's not even on the screen. My apologies. What a dummy. My apologies. Let me because he's just asking. She just went on to ask this historian because he's saying that there are more surprises to come, right? Could be more surprises to come. So let's listen.
A lot more surprises to come. I mean, this is a pretty big surprise. Not going to touch the White House and now demolishing the whole East Wing. What do you mean with more surprises?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to see more and more surprises down the road, both in terms of the impact on the executive mansion itself. It could go beyond the East Wing. It could affect the executive mansion building itself.
And again, let's just kind of take what he's saying here and let's just run it through and compute this through our Donald Trump calculators, right? So if Donald Trump now gets away with building his $200, $300, $400, $500 million ballroom, not only that, but in the meantime, gets away with the demolishing of the East Wing, right? And gets to do whatever the hell he wants without repercussions, without anything. Is there anything that we honestly believe would stop him from now doing this same thing to the private residence where the president stays? Or, I don't know, any other aspect of the White House? Like, are we really expecting him to stop with this if he gets away with it? And again, if we want to call it maybe the pedophile palace, right? While he's in there, instead of the White House, it's the pedophile palace. We could maybe rename. It's unfortunate, but again, I didn't put the motherfucker in there. So I have no problem calling it that. It's not my fault. I didn't do it. So the pedophile palace and Epstein Ballroom, again, dedicated to the 1 million+ Americans that lost their life due to Trump's mishandling of COVID. I don't know if that'll fit on a plaque though. That might be tough to get on a plaque. Maybe we could do like a side by side with columns, and on one it could be dedicated to the Epstein files, and on the other the 1 million+ Americans that Donald Trump killed because he didn't take COVID seriously. We could do that. I'm sure that could be done somehow.
Original 1800 building, but I think much more likely what we're going to see is a ballroom that's going to be even more ostentatious, and it's going to turn the executive mansion
Speaking
into
of which, don't we have? Let me see if I have this here, because there were actual. Is it in this Jesse Waters clip? Let me see here. Because I don't know if you guys saw the pictures of Trump holding these pictures in his meeting. But Jesus Christ, it just looked like somebody shit gold on a piece of paper. That's all it looked like. Let me see if I can pull this up. Yeah, here it is right here. Oh yeah, here's a rendering. Here's a rendering for you guys. Check this shit out. Check this shit out. Look at this. The website doesn't even want to bring it up. It's so shitty. It doesn't even want to bring it up. It's so shitty. Can't even bring itself to bring up the White House ballroom renderings. Come on, where are you? Nope, you're not gonna help. You're not gonna cooperate. Not gonna cooperate. Oh, okay. All righty. I see how you're gonna be. API timed out. I see. Okay. So let's see if I can do. Maybe there's just images that I could do. There you go. There you go. Yep, that's what it's supposed to. That's what it's supposed to look like. Let me get out of the way so you guys can see it. That's supposed to be a rendering, just a gold blob of shit, right? And I'm not sure who the hell was complaining in the White House about lack of space, but that wasn't something that I was hearing. I didn't hear any dignitaries leaving the White House and immediately in their press conferences being like, holy shit, were we crammed in there? What you guys need is a really big, shitty gold ballroom that looks absolutely gaudy as hell. And this guy's 100% right that this is probably going to be the most gaudy and egregious thing we've ever seen. Again, if you thought what was going on, and we've seen the timeline, like the time lapse of like the changes, the little changes and the gold accents to the Oval Office and the different rooms that Trump holds his meetings in, right? So you notice like, over the months, you've seen just a little bit of gold. Next thing you know, it's on the fucking fireplace. Then it's on the walls. Then it's in front of the fireplace. Now it's everywhere, right? Like this is going to be even a step beyond that, if you can even imagine, if you can even picture that.
To the party space.
Okay, wait, let me make sure I just to put, as I'm hearing you say this, I'm just thinking about it, right? A White House that I've seen as a tourist, that I've seen as a journalist on the inside. You're saying that the upshot of all this may be the actual White House itself, that people think of as the White House, will essentially become an annex to a large ballroom in terms of how it appears, if this goes ahead even as currently planned.
Yeah, if you look at it now, and like I was born in Washington, D.C., I lived most of my life there. If you look at the Executive Mansion now, you see 225 years of history, even further back to the influence of George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and the architect James Hoban. And you see that history. Now your attention is going to be drawn to this giant ballroom, which really has one man's name on it. It's going to cast the Executive Mansion into the shade and turn it much more into a presidential palace. And I just say, as a Founding Fathers historian, spent most of my life with George Washington, I think all of the founders would have been disgusted by this.
And again, this is a man that knows his legacy is already tarnished by not only COVID, not only January 6th, not only his reputation leading into office, not only his handling in office since he's been in office in both terms, not only with his, again, the ongoing cover-up of the Epstein files, everything else that's been attached. This is a man that knows his reputation as a president is shit and will be looked upon as shit going forward in the future, and knows that his only chance here to have any fucking way of being remembered as even being a president, never mind a fucking, a president that should be applauded in any way. That makes me sick to even think, but of course that's what MAGA is going to try to represent here in a second. But his only way is to turn into an Egyptian pharaoh and just start building fucking monuments again that are so big, so gaudy, and so ostentatious that, again, it's going to be almost impossible to tear it down. They will have to be repurposed or turned into something different just because of the, substantial nature of the construction. We're talking about 90,000 square feet, something that's going to be bigger than the actual residence itself in the ballroom, right? So then, this historian saying it's going to become the focal feature. It's going to overshadow the rest of the White House, which is the historical part, not this 2025 built golden ballroom by this hag dictator authoritarian. Like, and again, I know this isn't in some ways a sideshow, a side piece to what else is going on, geopolitically, domestically inside our country, and I totally understand that. But I have many other shows during the week, and we spend a shitload of time focusing on the biggest topics in this world right now. So please allow me, if I may, to allow me to indulge upon this fucking, bashing and again, this metaphor that we're seeing here about the representation of Donald Trump in the demolishing of democracy in the social norms of our governance in this country.
Much more of a presidential palace. Lulu, just
I'm sorry, that's the pedophile palace. ma'am. I just want to correct you on that. That's now the newly founded pedophile palace. And again, this goes on too, because I believe, this is Ben posted this. Again, I was just talking about this. So it's now up to 300 million. This is where Trump says 300 million. In case you haven't heard this yet, I know everybody's been saying 200, 250. Well, now out of his own mouth, it's now 300 million.
There's a relative.
Oh yeah, and this is also where he's holding. Here, I'll get out of the way. This is also where he's holding up these renderings. Look how fucking gaudy, ostentatious, and shitty. Again, look at the gold accents in the background. This is the same thing I'm talking about. First, it was the chairs. Then it was like a little accent here over the fucking fireplace. Then it was the walls. Then it was the entire fireplace, right? Then it was the shit on the table. Right, check out these. Check out this. Yeah, the Diddler Dungeon, great one, Tiff. Love it. Keep them coming. Actually, keep those names coming in the chat. Fire those off because we're about to stumble on a perfect one. And I think the Pedophile Palace, the Diddler Dungeon, making this something seriously we should put into play is a resolution or a bill saying this should be dedicated if it's gonna fucking go ahead. To the people that lost their lives during COVID. I'm so 100% serious about that. I would love to see the Republicans vote against that one. Let's see the fucking Republicans have enough balls to vote against that one. Right? So again, keep them coming. I love it, guys. You guys are fucking so creative. I appreciate it. But look at these renderings. I'm going to stay out of the way so you guys can see it and tell me what you guys think. What is your natural reaction to these renderings?
Nobody's actually seen anything quite like it. I think it'll be one of the great ballrooms anywhere in the world. It's about $300 million. It's set to do many, many things, including meetings of foreign leaders.
About $300 million, okay? So that's a big fucking about. That about is doing a lot of fucking heavy lifting in that sentence, I can tell you that. Now, look at this. Look at how big it's going to be to begin with, right? So that's just going to, like the last person, the White House historian we just heard, is going to say, completely overshadow any of the, the architectural fucking significance and historical society relevance to the rest of the fucking White House. It's just going to be completely overshadowed. Now, look at this next one.
Including.
So now we got 300 million. Look at it.
Honoring of foreign leaders. You can see this. This is a plan. If it's got tables so that you honor a foreign.
It's got tables, ladies and gentlemen. In case you were wondering, it does have tables. Donald Trump would like you to know it does have tables, so you will be able to sit, because apparently the biggest problem at the White House nowadays is a severe lack of seats, and apparently we can't have every dignitary on the planet here at once.
Leader, we have a proper space right now. We have a space that with tables holds about 79 people. There's
so 300 million, and again, that he didn't even get to show the really gold one. But Ben says here soon it will be $1 billion, and I have no doubts about that as well. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see that. But there was a few more here. Let me see here. There was one of these that I wanted to see because there was a couple on. Yeah, so people trying to excuse this. Let's just play this quick clip. Let's see, what time is it? Yeah, I'll just play this quick clip and we'll get on to, again, the right-wing propaganda, applauding Donald Trump and, again, excusing him for not going through the proper routes with this if it was Biden, if it was Obama, if it was Clinton that would do this, they would be literally walking the papers to impeach him into the chambers right this very second. So, again, I'm not sure who this is. It says Tim Parrish, conservative strategist, again, tries to somehow say that FDR putting in a pool and Obama turning tennis courts into a basketball court is somehow justification for taking a bulldozer to the entire East Wing. But here we go.
I find it very interesting that we're having this conversation because FDR actually built the East Wing, put a pool in for himself. President Obama was a basketball player, put a basketball.
Yeah, and just notably, and I'll put myself back on the screen, just notably, FDR, one of those, perfect Olympic swimmers that we know, right? Just a guy that we know about his health was just, doing laps all the fucking time. And I'm sure, right, it probably had something to do with keeping him, alive and healthy. Because I'm sure he didn't just put a pool in there for fun, again, knowing what we know about FDR. I mean, if you've done any historical research, if you know anything about history, I don't think fucking FDR was Michael Phelps in his way around the White House pool anytime soon. Jesus.
And President Nixon was a bowler and put a bowling alley, all personal things they want to do. The president is doing an addition to the People's House. It's going to be able to hold hundreds of people instead of cramming people
in addition to the People's House. I'm sorry, was this an addition asked for by the people? Because I don't remember the people asking for this addition. I don't remember, you know, as farmers are now struggling, as fucking almost 200 U.S. citizens have been rounded up and beaten by ICE. You know what I mean? I don't think the first thing on their minds is, you know what we should probably do is spend $500 million on a fucking golden ballroom that we're going to design for, you know, and call the, you know, the diddler fucking dungeon, right? The pedophile palace.
And foreign visitors and other folks that we've crammed into these rooms, we're going to have an actual ballroom that we can properly host people in the White House. And
yes, because we were all ashamed of the space beforehand, guys, weren't we? Weren't we just ashamed to invite any foreign dignitary or head of state to the White House? I mean, Jesus, I couldn't even think of the embarrassment that we faced, you know, bringing and having our dignitaries drive up to the fucking White House. I'm sure they were just so taken aback by the lack of seating that this was just, you know, priority number one.
He's paying for it, and private donors are paying
but
for it.
But Abby Phillips actually does a good job of pushing back here, I will admit.
Any correlation, he's putting his personal dollars in along with private donors.
The pool and the basketball court did not disrupt the structure of the White House. That's the first thing.
And
the second thing,
changes.
But hold on, Tim. The second thing is that, look, he is literally taking a bulldozer to the White House. It's just a basic thing. Should that be a conversation with the American people? Should it be a conversation with Congress? There have been several times when the White House,
answer yes,
to your point, has been altered, renovated, updated, and it's gone to Congress.
I think.
Right. So great points made there. And again, we'll just move on from that because we have several of these morons trying to do the bidding of Donald Trump to try to go on and again, slap and slobber and fucking kiss all over his knob all over the time. First one that wants to do that is Jesse Waters here, who again is just, it's really surprising to me that Jesse Waters can even get on camera and put a microphone on and get a word out with, again, Donald Trump's behind stuff so far down his throat. It's almost like he's a ventriloquist at this point. But again, this is Jesse Waters doing his best North Korean propaganda impression. And again, he's trying to be outdone by Benny Johnson. He's trying to be outdone by Newsmax, and we'll get on to those, and then we'll get on to the Russian sanctions after that. But again, this is Jesse Waters. TNT is being laid all over the place is the title of this. I'm not sure what the hell that means, but again, I'm sure we'll find out. Let's take a look.
Shh. You hear that?
You probably hear the beautiful sound of construction to the back. You hear that sound? Oh, that's music to my ears. I love that sound. Other people don't like it. I love it, Josh. I think when I hear that sound, it reminds me of money.
Yeah, again, that's the sound of Donald Trump doing the one thing he could possibly do in order to, I don't know, remain somehow attached to the White House again, at least in name, right? Is building these fucking ridiculous and gaudy like additions that, again, he thinks will never be like repurposed or torn down, which hopefully, if it even gets that far, the first thing we do is fucking stick a couple sticks of TNT in that bastard. The ballroom, I mean.
If you live in D.C., get used to those sweet, sweet, soothing sounds of demolition. The president.
I mean, just listen to his tone and like his just, it is just so anti-fucking alpha, the most beta shit ever. Like to just sit here and be like, oh, I am so not worthy. And Donald Trump is every night on national television, and to cuck yourself like that every single night while your mom is attending the No Kings protest. Just how much self-esteem must you lack, right? The fucking just absolutely no self-confidence whatsoever. Just this hack beta bitch in Jesse Waters.
Building the biggest and most beautiful ballroom in the world, and it's free. Trump and donors put up the money.
Bullshit. Bullshit. I'd like to see the check that Donald Trump signed where he put up his own fucking money for this ballroom. Again, that doesn't have a set price on it yet. It seems to be going up exponentially by the day.
Even though she lives in New York, it keeps Mika up at night.
It is hard to watch that, and it's hard to believe that any president could destroy the White House. To take literally a wrecking ball to the White House, it's grotesque. Just grotesque.
The ladies of The View tried drowning out the jackhammers with their pipes.
You don't own that building. That is the people's building. You don't own it. Let's sing it. You don't own it. You cannot take it down. You don't own it. Take your behind to another town.
Hillary says it's not his house, it's your house, and he's destroying it. Hillary just called Trump a homewrecker. When her husband Bill was termed out, Hillary absconded with $30,000 of White House furniture. She even took the silverware.
And this is something that you'll hear later on from Benny Johnson as well. But again, literally at the end of the same statement he tries to make, he says before they returned it. So again, I'm not familiar with this specific case of the furniture or the silverware, but it seems to me like even the conservative people trying to use this know that it was returned and not stolen, right? Like they don't still have possession of the stuff that they're talking about. Like that was already, dealt with, and why you keep bringing it up as like justification for Donald Trump again, tearing down the entire East Wing to build a golden ballroom is hilariously fucking insignificant.
Nothing's more grotesque than what Bill Clinton did to that White House. And what's Trump destroying? Has Hillary...
But just so happens that the pots that you say he desecrated still exist. Like they're still there. They weren't turned down. They weren't fucking burnt, right? They weren't bulldozed. They didn't have a wrecking ball taken to them. Like they are still there, because it's not his house and he had no really approval or, reason to do anything with that. But again, to not a one-to-one wrecking down the fucking entire East Wing with what Bill Clinton did is just a ridiculous fucking, just a ridiculous thing to bring up again as justification what Donald Trump is doing.
Not seen the new marble floors?
Did you notice the white marble floor that was put there? That was made out of Home Depot tiles, about 1 foot by 1 foot. They were all broken, about 30 years old. And I replaced it with book-matched marble, paid for by your friend.
Now does that track, ladies and gentlemen? Do we actually think that the fucking White House in any way had Home Depot equipment, Home Depot fucking, tiles or Home Depot anything in it? Like, I mean, come on. Like,
and Trump.
White House renovations aren't anything new. Presidents have been fixing up the White House for over 100 years. Teddy Roosevelt built the West Wing from scratch. FDR added an entire second floor and then put in an indoor swimming pool.
Correct. Right. But again, probably for more health concern reasons, right? As opposed to, and again, the West Wing is now being used and functional for business and to conduct the governing of the country. Not a fucking ballroom for galas and parties, which has no rhyme or reason or no effect whatsoever on the governing or effect of this fucking country, right?
The presidents that followed loved it. Kennedy liked the skinny dip.
That was the swimming pool where Jackie would say, I hear women inside. Are women inside? Quite a famous, I'm not saying anything. This was a part of a movie. And the Secret Service said, no, ma'am, there's no women inside, ma'am. I'm sorry, ma'am, you're going to have to move along. But I hear women inside. No, ma'am, you'll have to move along, ma'am. So that was the famous swimming pool.
JFK left the pool so scandalized that Nixon filled it with concrete and turned it into the briefing room. Is that why they call it the press pool? We don't know.
Yeah, good one. Really fucking nailed it. Nailed it, Jess. You got a career somewhere, nowhere.
But Nixon left his mark. He put in a bowling alley in the basement. Truman gutted the whole...
None of these things have any one-to-one comparison on anything that Donald Trump is doing right now. Nothing whatsoever. None of these involve tearing down an entire wing. None of these involved spending the amounts of money that he's talking about right now, right? And again, if anything, it was more for the added benefit and health factors of the people serving in the office. Right, to get out there and maybe fucking, knock down a couple pins, right? Fucking relax themselves at a time. Or, I don't know, maybe take a dip in the pool to kind of fucking get away for a couple minutes, right? Or again, in FDR's case, to probably have some health benefits because of the condition that he was in. Right, a lot of these things are not like, again, an ostentatious golden ballroom with no added benefit whatsoever than just optics and so you could brag about something that you built and put your name on so that you could think it will last throughout the test of time, right? They're just not one-to-one comparisons by any means.
Whole White House gutted it, and he slept across the street while they ripped the place up.
Yes, refurbishing it, fucking renovating it, putting it back to a similar fucking aspect, right? But just redone, redoing the fucking walls and floors and shit. We're not talking about a total, deconstruction and reconstruction with different blueprints and a floor plan, right? We're just talking about refurbishing over the years. And again, nothing that you can compare to what Donald Trump is doing right now.
Put a basketball court right on top of where
He didn't put a basketball court in there. He changed the existing tennis courts into the basketball court.
Elder played tennis. Michelle hated Barack playing ball.
I'm always like, be careful playing basketball. You shouldn't be playing now. You now have a real
and again,
important
this
job.
is like the North Korean style propaganda that we make fun of Fox News for doing. Like just kissing Donald Trump's ass at every turn, not questioning anything, doing all the whataboutisms you could possibly imagine, right? Let's bring up every single possible thing we could point to other than what's actually taking place right now at the fucking, at the White House.
And literally, he's committed like he had been.
Some of Biden's people are really mad Trump's doing construction.
And again, this is a theme that you'll see here. We don't even have to go on with that asshole. I just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of taste of some of the things that we're saying. It gets worse, though. It gets much worse before it gets better as far as North Korea-style propaganda from people like Jesse Waters, Benny Johnson, and the rest of these assholes. Because check this out, right? I don't even know what to make of this, but check this out. This is Hillary Clinton throws historical meltdown over Trump White House demolition. Internet reminds her, and this is a video from Benny Johnson. And if nothing else, please just watch the intro to this. Please just watch the intro to this. Check this out. Ready? I'm sorry. What? Just one more time. Just one more time. And again, if you're not talking about like, if the word sycophantic, if the word cult, if the word like cult, I don't know, doesn't come to mind every time you see this, I don't know what else to get. I don't know how better to convey this, right? Like when you're doing AI videos like this, like literally zooming through the demolishing of the White House, the East Wing, to get into some AI version of Donald Trump looking like an ogre, I might add. Like, did he even see how Trump looked on this? Check again, one more time, last time, sorry. Now, look at Donald Trump's face right now, ladies and gentlemen. Probably the best he's looked in I don't know how long. But again, how much of a sycophant, right? How fucking... like what levels of low self-esteem and low worth do you need in order to try to create something like, imagine if I created something like this for, I don't know, Biden or Kamala, right? Like just, and if they were knocking down the White House and I was like, oh, don't worry about it. Just see through the demolition of the White House and into this amazing ballroom of these two people dancing that hate each other's guts. Like, look at this. Like, what is that face? What is this? Hold on. Oh my goodness grief. What the hell is that? What the fuck is that face? Oh my God. Does it get better? No! Please tell me, can I zoom? Please tell me I can zoom. No, I can't because it's a video. Shit. How does anybody know how I can? He looks like. Oh, check this out. Oh, that is too good. Oh my God. Give me a second. Give me a second. No, geez, I broke out into a sweat. He got me. He got me. He got me. How do I make this bigger? Shit. Ready? Give me a second. Bear with me. It'll be worth it. I promise. It'll be worth it. It'll be worth it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Donald Trump on Benny Johnson's video. On Benny Johnson's video. Oh, shit. Sloth, I'm sorry, brother. I am sorry. I'm so sorry that Benny did you like that, but he did do you like that. That's my apologies. Oh, all right. Let's give him a minute. Let's give him a minute. Let's see let's see how much worse this gets from this point on. I'm sorry. I do apologize.
What's up, guys? Spenny. We were just at the White House last week. We saw President Trump's homage to Joe Biden and
wait, is this fucking? I never know. Last time I got copyright when he did the tequila song. Remember when he did the tequila song, the wicked racist intro? So I got a fucking hit with a copyright to that. So I don't know. Is this background music copyright? Does he stop with that at any point? Yeah, I'll have to go forward a little bit.
Time. Donald Trump has done a beautiful job to that great entry. President Trump, of course, that hangs inside of the lobby of the White House, the great entry hall. We were having a great time. Donald Trump has done a beautiful job to that building. President Trump's very proud of everything that he's done inside of the White House. He walks on the rooftop and goes like this, and he tells reporters he's going to put a nuclear missile silo up on the west wing of the White House. Oh, man. President Trump is doing wonders to this.
Now, I can't tell. Is he making fun of Trump in that situation? Like, is he actually trying to bring that up as like a moment to applaud the guy standing on the top of the roof of the West Wing talking about putting nuclear missile silos? Like, I don't know. I can never sometimes tell if is he making fun of him in this? Is he just mocking him?
This, and he tells reporters he's going to put a nuclear missile silo up on the west wing of the White House. Oh, man.
Like, it sounds like he's like, oh, man, get this old guy off the fucking roof. Like, who let him up there? Type of thing.
President Trump is doing wonders to this
is he?
Old, dingy building. That's okay.
Dingy building. The White House. The White House is an old, dingy building now? I'm sorry, did that happen in Donald Trump's last 4 years? Because it was the most beautiful building ever. It was the most beautiful favorite place in the whole entire world. But now all of a sudden it's this dark, dingy space. Come on.
Hey, I mean, it's a really old building. Some parts of the building are...
That has been, again, as we've been talking about, renovated over the years. And work has been done to it over the years. But it stayed the same. Instead of having these huge, again, changes that you just fucking willy-nilly went about and drew up the blueprints yourself for without congressional approval, without going through any historical society. What's up, Vixen? What's happening? Long time no see. Good to see you in there. Good to see you in there. That goes for a lot of the people that I'm seeing that I haven't seen in a while. Good to see you guys. Make sure you hit that like button in there, please. It does a lot to help. It really does. And just joining us, we're going over some ridiculous, again, North Korea style Republican propaganda that is applauding Donald Trump for his, again, what we've been calling an apt visual representation for what he's doing to democracy in this country with the demolishing of the East Wing and his building of this gaudy, shitty, decrepit Epstein ballroom and the Diddler dungeon. And then again, the Epstein file storage closet, we could call it, the ballroom dedicated to the million souls that lost their lives due to COVID and Donald Trump's, lack of response and lack of taking that seriously. We could talk about that as well. But yeah, that's what we're discussing.
Are hundreds of years old. And so it's going to need some help. It's going to need a little bit of help.
And again, this has absolutely nothing to do with the existing building. Can we just get that bullshit out of the way? Like, this is not revamping the White House. Donald Trump had nothing to say about the East Wing as far as it needing help, right? This was originally, like we said, not supposed to even affect the White House structurally, integrally, fucking not supposed to touch it. So this bullshit propaganda that we're now hearing right now is just that. So to be like, oh, well, you know, lots of people have been calling that a dark, dingy building that needed help anyway. That's not what this is. He's building an exterior ballroom that he just now lied about and said that it wasn't going to have to, again, involve the, the existing structural, rooms in this fucking building. But now, clearly, now that he's torn down the entire East Wing, we know that was bullshit. So it has nothing to do. Nobody was complaining about the East Wing or the fucking First Lady's office before this started happening. So again, just nonsense, bullshit. Propaganda done for at the behest of the fucking government from these people that are always calling for small government and don't tread on me, now actively doing state-run propaganda for a dictator. That's just what it is. They're calling it out for what it is. That's what it is.
Hell. Or just some demolishing. Oh, I failed to mention that I also saw the giant flagpoles that are there, and the flagpoles are amazing. The 100-foot tall flagpoles.
Just had the weird smell. The top of the flagpole, I was able to get up there on one of those lifts, and it was the top of the flagpole had a strange smell like Donald Trump's ass. It was tough to miss, but when you got up there, and even when you bring the flags down at the end of the night, they have the faint whiff of Donald Trump's taint. And Benny Johnson does know what that smells like. He can prove it.
The East Wing of the White House, that's the opposite wing, is pretty much
the West one. Jesus, these guys are just fucking geniuses all the way around. All of them. Tim Pool, Benny Johnson. I mean, just Jesse Waters. These guys are the brightest bulbs of 1910, apparently, because these people just cannot, they can't miss. Apparently, the East Wing is the opposite from the West Wing. If you guys didn't catch that, if you're, having problems with your logistics as far as the White House grounds are concerned, now we know. East, opposite of West. Gotcha.
Non-functional. This is known as like the way that the First Lady's wing of the White House, and there's really nothing going on
Who
there.
gives a shit about her, right? I mean, she don't even fucking actually love the president. It's not like they actually are seen together ever. I mean, who gives a fuck about that lady? I mean, we know that Donald Trump's ready to just grab any woman by the crotch without consent. So screw that lady. It's just her office, right? And she don't care. She really don't give a fuck. She don't really care anyway. Tear it down, Donald, I say. Tear the fucker down.
Like a giant hallway, and it's just a bunch of rooms that nobody ever uses.
And you could sum that up pretty much the entire White House complex that way, right? You could just say that about the whole thing. It's just a bunch of rooms that, sparsely used. A lot of times this room stays empty. It's only used for tours. Like, what the hell? We might as well just demolish the whole thing, right? Fuck it. Whoa.
Today's episode is...
What the hell was that? How'd that just happen? What the hell was that? The computer just had a heart attack. Let me go back. Oh, nope, that one. That one. What the fuck was that? I'm so confused right now. How did that just happen? One more time? All right, well, let me go back to it. My apologies. I'm not even sure how the hell that happened. Apparently, I hit the wrong button. Now I got to go back to my history. Give me a second. Bear with me. Got to go back to this arsehole now. Because there was oh, here it is. Jeez.
Donald Trump has said that he's going to build a ballroom there because the White House...
And we were at the exact moment, so I'll just go back just a second. Sorry, I must have hit something.
Donald Trump has said that he's going to build a ballroom there because the White House desperately needs a ballroom.
Desperately needs a ballroom. Now, how those words can leave your mouth without a fucking smirk or a smile is just beyond me. Desperately needs a ball. Does anybody, anywhere, any building, any site, at any time on any fucking planet ever desperately need a fucking ballroom? I'm sorry. I'm just kind of spitballing here. I'm not sure if like people in the third world, people in different countries that aren't as privileged would kind of agree as to, the necessity of a golden ballroom for the function of the government or the president for that matter. Just kind of curious on that one.
When you go to a fancy event at the White House, and I've been to some of these, what you end up doing is standing in tents outside. It's weird.
It's a fucking horror. The horror, ladies and gentlemen. Can you imagine standing in a tent built for 250 people that, most times can't even tell is a fucking tent because the damn thing is so large and well constructed that it just kind of looks like, a temporary shelter, which what it is. It doesn't, you don't feel like you're in a tent. I think tent is a bit fucking strong, right? You're not out there on the Geordie Hills in Scotland fucking camping on the fucking seaside, right? It's a well-established, well-built, big tent to hold, multiple hundreds of people. But the horror, ladies and gentlemen, the horror. I mean, can you imagine?
It's true. So if you go to a big dinner, like a state dinner at the White House, you'll walk through the soggy grass out to a tent that they have to.
Yes, I'm sure that's what they do. I'm sure everybody is just made to, just swamp through that soggy grass to go into these tents. I'm sure they have nothing set up for people to walk on. I'm sure there's no pathways. I'm sure they probably go and spray the garden down with a little bit of water beforehand just to make it a little bit more slick, just that little bit more muddy for especially the ladies in high heels and ball gowns and the dresses, that they have that typically sometimes drag behind them. I'm sure that's how it is. It's just, it's a slog there at all these White House events. I mean, you might as well be in prison at this point.
Set up, and you sit inside of a tent. It could be freezing. It could be raining. It could be a beautiful day.
Benny, come here, buddy. Hey, Benny. That's why you have the fucking tent. If it's raining, that's why you have the fucking tent. Genius. That way, said rain doesn't affect said fucking, function. You dumb bastard. What if it rains? You're in a tent. But it's raining. You're in a fucking tent. Yo, hey, babyface, enter the chat. Benny loves golden showers. Rain showers, but I make them golden. Oh, good one. I like it. We're cooking now. We're cooking with gas now, people.
You're still inside of a plastic tent.
Oh, plastic tent. Jesus fucking Christ. The privilege on these white motherfuckers. The plastic tent, again, if anybody has even been to something even half the size of some of the tents that are erected for some of these functions, like, you understand what I'm talking about. You no longer feel like you're in a tent. Like, it doesn't feel like a tent. It just feels like you're in a giant fucking structure made to keep you dry and warm. That's it. Just well built, poles everywhere, strings holding it down, bolted to the ground. And like, it's ridiculous to think that, like, we desperately need a ballroom, and like, people are just having the worst time of their life when they go to these functions at the White House.
In the middle of the lawn, because there's no place to entertain inside of the White House. It's an old building with teeny rooms in it. It's not big. And so President Trump says, I'm going to personally pay.
I keep doing this. My apologies. I keep hoarding it to myself.
For $250 million ballroom that wouldn't interfere with the existing White House structure.
Okay, keywords in that being wouldn't interfere with the existing White House structure. Now, let's see how Benny gets out of this one, and then we'll move on to our next clip. But let's see how Benny gets out. I'm dying. I'm desperate to know how they're going to get out of this one. When Donald Trump, as we played earlier in the show, through his own fucking tiny-ass lips with the help of his tiny-ass hands, actually said it would not interfere, touch, integrally, structurally, anything with the existing White House structure. How does he get out of now, having demolished the entire fucking East Wing, get out of this one?
The construction of the ballroom would be beautiful. Now, the photos like this, of course, have gone viral on social media.
Wait a minute. Whoa. He's just going to blow by that? He quite literally just read, wouldn't interfere with the existing White House structure, and immediately scrolled down to this fucking picture. He immediately scrolled down to this picture without ever addressing the wouldn't interfere with existing structure. And we're just going to breeze by that. He's just not going to, nobody in his crowd's going to be like, hey, could have sworn you just read something saying existing structure wouldn't be touched. And then you just immediately scroll down to the picture of the fucking entire East Wing being demolished. Can we go over that just for a second? Can you somehow give me
be beautiful? Now,
nothing says nothing about it.
The photos like this, of course, have gone viral on social media.
Yes, and guess what? Donald Trump and the Trump administration are not happy about that, ladies and gentlemen, because it has now been instructed that people in the administration to not post pictures of the construction or the demolishing of the East Wing because of the optics, because they know people don't like how it looks. They don't like how it's being done. Right? So they're now telling people actively, and I'm sure a little memo's gone out to all their fucking Kremlin soldiers, right? All their little robots on the right to say, hey, try not to fucking post these or show these pictures anymore, if at all possible, right? Because it's not looking good. The blowback we're getting isn't very good. And, let's just try to get this construction done before giving, the media and anybody else any more, fuel for the fire on this one. So they're not very happy, and they know it. This goes to show that the Trump administration knows that this doesn't look good.
The White House has decided to defend this from some people like Hillary Clinton, which I'll get to the responses there in just a second because they are hilarious. The White House says, here are all of the times when presidents have decided to rip up old and non-functional parts of the White House and do something new. This is the old White House Conservatory that was being demolished and rebuilt.
No. Don't blow by that one. Don't blow by that one, because they took down the conservatory to build the West Wing. Again, a highly functional, very fucking useful, very important part of the fucking White House compound, the West Wing. So making it better, making it more functional, making it, making it, again, better, as I said, but not, again, demolishing a functional part of it to build something that will only be used for, again, parties and balls. I mean, that's just, again, not a comparison. See how they're trying to, again, they love obfuscating, they love doing the whatabouts. Let's just point to other instances, even though this is, again, not even close to the same thing that's being done here. We can point to this, and again, at least we're not talking about what's actually being done.
This is the old White House Conservatory that was being demolished and rebuilt. Construction of the West Terrace, construction of the East.
Yeah, we're talking about the construction of these things. Literally 1902. We're talking about the construction. 1902, right? 1902. We're talking about the construction of these things. We're not talking about the demolishing of these things, right? We're not talking about something being told. We're talking about it actually being, built up onto, like made better, not worse or useless.
The East Terrace. President Coolidge oversees renovations.
Yes, renovations in 1927. Correct. Making it better, improving.
Construction of the West Wing.
Expansion of the West Wing, 1934. Again, improvements.
Expansion. West Wing expansion, 1934. Renovation of the White House, 1950.
Again, renovations, improvements.
Look at that. They just gutted.
And again, who approved these? Were these approved by people? Are you going to go back and tell us, who was involved in this? What historical societies, checked off on these plans? Was it gone, did the Congress have any approval on this? Or are we just going to breeze by, again, that whole background and how it's supposed to work? And you're just going to show pictures and talk about different construction projects? Because that's not really the problem. So what do you say we dive into? Let's just take one of these. Let's take one of these. Let's just do the most recent one. Let's do this one. What's he saying this one? One sec. Give me a second.
The whole damn expansion, 1934.
So this is the renovation work on White House, 1950. So I'll just type in renovation work, reno work, White House, 1950, Congress approval, and just see what comes up, right? I'll just see what comes up. Let's just see what comes up here. Let me see. I'm going to take him off the screen. I'll put myself back on the screen while we're searching so you don't have to stare at his face. Okay, and I'll share this tab instead, put this on the studio. And again, this is just one random one that I picked out, and we'll either be proven right or wrong on this one. I haven't done the research, so this could go any way. But let's just see here. Yes, Congress provided approval and funding for the extensive White House renovation that occurred during the Truman administration between 1948 and 1952. Following an engineering report that the structure was in danger of collapse, Truman requested congressional action, which resulted in the establishment of the commission to oversee the project. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny how just the one random aspect posted by the Rapid Response 47 team, which is the official White House account here, or one of the official White House accounts, talking about how they're going and doing the same thing that Truman and all these other people did. But it seems to me that this had congressional oversight. This had congressional approval. This had its own commission, right, that was established to talk about and make sure that what was going on was being done in the right way, right? Even had its own structure report that said that the structure was in danger of collapse beforehand and that this was actually required work, right? Excuse me. And not something that we just wanted or deemed deemed as like, something that would be cool to have, right? So let's see, what else does this tell us? Let's see, details on the congressional approval. Okay, let's go into it. Request for a commission. In 1949, Truman wrote to Congress recommending the creation of a commission to supervise the restoration and renovation of the White House. So quite literally, Truman wrote to Congress and said, hey, you guys should come up with a commission to supervise the restoration and renovation of this whole project. Does that sound in any way like what Donald Trump is doing in this time? No? Okay, we go on. Enactment of legislation. Congress responded quickly, and on April 14, 1949, Truman approved a bill that formally created the Commission on the Renovation of the Executive Mansion. Okay, so official. Done by Congress. Bill signed. Done the right way. Commission composition. The 6-member commission was comprised of 2 members appointed by the president, 2 by the Senate, and 2 by the House. So equal representation. See how that works, ladies and gentlemen? See how that works when done in the proper manner, when done through the proper routes, right? Equal representation, 2 by the president, 2 by the House, 2 by the Senate. Everybody gets to say, hey, this is what's going on, report back to their own, report to their own wing or party or, group that they're affiliated with. And everybody has their insights. Everybody has the knowledge and know-how. Authorization of funds, probably something we should establish. 1949, following a detailed investigation and design process. So again, this committee went through a whole detailed investigation, design process. Congress authorized the initial funding of $5.4 million for the project. Supplemental appropriations were later approved to cover cost overruns, which is how it's supposed to go. The scope of the work. So what's 5.4? Let me see. So what was it? 5.4 million in 1950 to today. So I'm just kind of curious what's that like in today's money. So that would be a value of 5 million from 1950 to 2025. So it'd be roughly $67,214,937 adjusted for inflation in 2025. So 5 million equal to 67 million. So we're talking $67 million in renovation work to the White House in one of the biggest renovations that this White House has seen, right? This is the time period, the Truman time period in which, most of these big projects were undertaken. And we're talking about $67 million in stuff that was actually necessary and needed in order for the structural integrity, right, as per the report done, gone through congressional approval, not the $300 million, right? And again, even for taking into account inflation and for 2025, 67 million. Again, that is exponentially less than the 300 million plus that I guarantee is going to be spent on the ballroom. That is not necessary, not a necessity. That is just something that Trump wants and thinks that would be fucking cool to have, right? Something with his name on it that will last the test of time, like I said. Right, the renovation was far more than a remodel. It involved dismantling and gutting the interior of the White House while preserving the exterior walls. A new steel frame and a new foundation were constructed, and the interior were rebuilt and modernized. Again, all for, the equivalent of $67 million in today's money. Put that in perspective. Revamped, redone, back to the studs, down to the fucking steel. $67 million, not $300 million plus on this ballroom. Craziness. Fucking craziness. And it goes on because he's not the only one. He also spent time on with this asshole as well, Finnerty. And this is just a quick clip here that I'll play for you guys. Oh, shit. We're rapidly running out of time. So again, you've had enough of Benny Johnson. Let's do about 5 to 7 minutes of this clip from these assholes here, and then we'll go on to the talk about and look at the new sanctions being put on Russia. So what do you say we do this? This is Glenn Beck trying to calm down his sidekick, Stu, because Stu is not happy. He's not having it. Check this out.
You still haven't really addressed why Donald Trump is knocking down the White House for his own.
Well, he just hates America.
Yeah, that's what I've been reading.
Right.
Yeah.
And how crazy excited the left
So
should be.
he wants to make it seem like he's playing around, Stu, but that was a serious question from Stu. Like, you still haven't addressed like what's going on, why we're not enraged and outraged about what the fuck's going on here.
That he's knocking down something built by slaves. They're like, we got to preserve that. That's slaves made that.
And Glenn Beck's argument, ladies and gentlemen, is to combat this with, shouldn't you be happy he's knocking this down? It was built by slaves. That's Glenn Beck's, that's his comeback on this one. Is we should be happy it was built by slaves. Okay.
It's weird.
I actually do have questions about this, though.
Right? So Stu, not letting it go, really wants to have like a conversation about this, really wants to know like what the fuck's going on, and he actually presses Glenn on it. Let's hear what Glenn says, and like I said, we'll move on to the Russian sanctions before we run out of time here.
What question do you have?
Well, like, and they come from everybody's source of thinking these days, which are group texts that I'm on with some friends.
Right.
Yeah. You know what, Stu? If I was a conservative, if I was a Republican right now, I'd be deleting group chats left and right. Hasn't worked out for too many people. Paul Ingrassia, you should probably ask the 40 and 50-year-old fucking young Republicans what they thought about their group chat as well. Yeah, I might hop out of those group chats if I were you.
I have really basic questions of like, I feel like there'd be like a conversation and a bill passed if we were going to put a giant new building at the White.
Stu, you can't have common sense questions on the Glenn Beck show. What the hell is wrong with you? You can't start making sense all of a sudden. You're going to make Glenn look like an idiot. You can't talk about congressional approval and like maybe a bill that should be signed and maybe some oversight by a certain committee. I mean, that just makes way too much sense and is how like all of the other major reconstruction and construction projects have, been undertaken and taken place. But, go ahead, Glenn, give us your answer to this. And wait till you hear this.
But nope. That's not how it works at all, is it?
Nope.
How does it work? How does this work?
You ready?
Yes.
And I give you this.
The president.
And Glenn Beck is dead fucking serious when he says this, or at least dead seriously trying to convince his audience that this is how it works. Check this out.
Works at all, is it?
Nope.
How does it work? How does this work?
You ready?
Yes.
So the president says, I want to change the White House.
Okay.
And so step by step, we'll take it step by step. President says, I want to change the White House. Okay. What's the next step according to Glenn Beck?
The White House architect says, how would you like to change it? And he says,
okay, so then after that, the only thing that happens is the White House architect says, okay, Mr. President, how would you like to change it? Okay, next step.
This way. And they say, okay, well, you need to approve all the permits. Okay, I approve all the permits. Okay, we change it.
That's how it works. In Glenn Beck's world, that's how it works. President says, I want to change it. Architect says, what you want to do? Then somebody says, okay, Mr. President, you have to approve the permits. And then the president says, okay, I approve the permits. And then you can just do whatever the fuck you want to the White House. Ladies and gentlemen, you didn't know. I bet you didn't know that. You didn't know that? Well, I guarantee you there are a substantial percentage of Glenn Beck's audience that now believes that that's how it fucking works. Thanks to Glenn Beck. And I don't think Stu's dumb enough to believe it, but let's just go on for another minute and see how he can kind of get himself out of this position. Stu, if he actually takes this answer seriously, or if he, kind of pushes back a little bit.
It's literally how it happens.
Really?
Yeah.
They can do anything they want.
Well, within reason. When I say within reason, I think with restraint from public outcry.
Because we're hearing none of that, right, Glenn? None of that's going on right now as it pertains to the East Wing in this ballroom. So again, where does it say like within reason? If there's no rules and regulations, where is this within reason? Who put this within reason in there? Is that written down somewhere? Or is that just like, I don't know, a little rule passed down from president to president that's got to be within reason? You can change anything you want, but within reason. Whose reason?
I want to paint the White House black. As president, you can do whatever you want, but I don't think that will fly with the American people.
Right. So that's the only thing stopping the president from changing the White House in any way he sees fit. is basically some random guy being like, I don't think the American public would really like that, sir. Which I'm thinking if there was a said guy that does that, he would be saying that at this time because the American public does not like what the fuck he's doing with the White House, right? Does not agree with what he's doing with the White House. So again, he's up shit's creek without a paddle with this argument. It's not only the most absurd and ridiculous argument to go at, but even the examples that he's given doesn't make any sense because there is public outcry. The public does not like what he's doing. So he's already fucking, like I said, up shit's creek without a paddle. But again, we don't have to dive into too much more of this. Let's dive into a few of these. I want to get into the Russian sanctions before I lose too much time here. Glenn Beck's not that fucking important. But Russia has responded to the sanctions. Yesterday, we talked about the sanctions that were being put in place by the Trump administration now on the two largest Russian oil companies. Right, so let's just see if I can play a little bit of this here. And this gives just a little bit of response by the Russians and how they're kind of treating this. And again, gives a little bit more information as to what is detailed in these sanctions. And then we'll go on to a few of our other videos that kind of, give us more information and more detail on what's going on. And even more with this, this is, right alongside with it, a lot of the times we've been taking and talking about how we've taken, one step forward and 7 steps back with Donald Trump and the way he's handled this whole thing. But that doesn't mean that we are incapable or should be unable to, again, talk about when we do make a step forward. Or in this case, I think we're making a couple steps forward. With this, lifting restrictions on Ukraine's use of European long-range missiles, couple that with, Ukraine's ongoing attacks and successes they've seen with the oil refinery strikes, couple that with the new the new sanctions on the Russian oil companies that are already in place. This isn't something that's being talked about or may happen or, needs more approval of this. This is shit that's already in place, right? So as much as it's thrown me for a loop, in seeing this come out of Donald Trump after his, phone call with Putin and, the Russian propaganda he was spewing, that we cannot be incapable or unwilling to, again, call out good steps when we see good steps that are beneficial to the people of Ukraine. So what do you say we just hop into this CNN, just a couple minutes on this, and then we'll hop into some of these other clips as well. Please hit that like button, guys. I'm Boston Brian. If you're just joining us, this is Blunt Politics, the political podcast made to sift through the bullshit of the mainstream media, the right-wing propaganda folks, Donald Trump, his administration, and we break it down for everyday, normal, working-class individuals like myself, like you guys, because that's who's affected by these policies on a day-to-day basis. So I think it's very important that we have these conversations on this level instead of being talked down to, like you kind of get that, feeling on, a lot of left-wing accounts that you can pull up nowadays. I don't drink my tea with my pinky up. I talk just like one of you guys. I am one of you guys. If you don't see me here in front of a camera, I'm typically in another chat, in another progressive progressive creator space, saying hello to everybody, showing my support. A lot of people can attest to that. So, I really do live by these beliefs and these policies and supporting independent media creators and supporting a different way to combat the media and a different way to get this information out there. And I hope that if I bring you some value, some entertainment, some information, you think about contributing to the show, or at the very least, liking, sharing, and subscribing, which are all free things to do. So I appreciate it. Let's get into the CNN clip here. And thank you very much for all that you do.
Responds after the U.S. hit the country's 2 largest oil companies with big new sanctions over the war in Ukraine. Russia's foreign minister is now calling that move entirely counterproductive. And we are standing by to hear from Vladimir Putin. Also this morning, oil prices are rising sharply as traders are worried about a squeeze on the global supply that could be coming due to these sanctions. President Trump's actions showing signs that his patience with Vladimir Putin is waning. For now. He announced yesterday that he's nixed an anticipated summit with the Russian leader, a meeting that Donald Trump himself was very enthusiastic about just last week after his
Again, another reason that gives me, just another thing that gives me reason to speculate that it was not Donald Trump that canceled this meeting, as I talked about on yesterday's show. Like the evidence is kind of leading me to believe that it was Vladimir Putin that canceled this meeting. She just said that, right there that Donald Trump was very excited about the meeting just last week. We talked about how it may be Donald Trump trying to save face and get ahead of it. We talked about the nuclear launches, the tests that Russia did. It just doesn't seem to me like it would be something that Donald Trump would cancel. And definitely this change, this role reversal here in his rhetoric and the stance and the policies is something that may stem from, again, Putin having canceled this. So that just seems much more likely in my opinion.
Call with Putin. CNN's Claire Sebastian is tracking all of this for us, and there was a lot that has developed overnight. Claire.
Yeah, Kate, I think, first of all, this is, and we see this coming through in the Russian rhetoric this morning, a big political shift.
And this is where I want you to listen, because this is where we get the new information, more details on what these sanctions actually, what they entail. So, this is where we kind of get that information. So I feel, like I said, I want to be the most up to date, the most informed on these things so we can know what expectations to look for. So we know how this is going to affect Ukraine, how it's going to affect Russia, and basically we can, use that going forward and see how it's kind of fitting in line with our expectations.
We start to talk about the economics. Russia has been through 9 months of the Trump administration where multiple deadlines and threats on sanctions have not been enforced, have essentially evaporated, or they've been able to sidestep them. Now these sanctions are in place.
All right, so it says here, U.S. sanctions Russia's 2 largest oil companies, as we know, cut off Rosneft and Lukoil, which are the 2 companies from U.S. banking systems and financial institutions. Why they were still allowed, or why they were still involved in that, is another question for another day. Involves different administrations as well, but just why that's even a thing. They also, from the Treasury Secretary, companies fund quote Kremlin's war machine, and the UK targeted them last week. It goes on here.
Even the Biden administration was prepared to do. Rosneft and Lukoil, the 2 biggest oil producers in Russia, they account for around half of Russian oil exports. So,
I mean, that's huge. That is huge. Half of Russia's oil exports. Again, this is on top of the 2.5, 3-month mission that we've been covering here from Ukraine in, targeting and striking Russian oil refineries. We've seen the chaos at the pump that it's caused, not just in Crimea, but all throughout Russia. So again, add this on top of that. On top of the successes that Ukraine's been seeing on the front lines that we've been highlighting as of late as well. Again, these are steps in the right direction. These are, positive moves, positive signs in this. And again, I refuse to be the one that is not going to, make sure that we highlight this. Again, anything good for the Ukrainian people, I want to make sure to highlight.
Look, this is definitely big. We're seeing rhetoric coming out from Russia brushing this off. The foreign ministry spokeswoman saying, look, our country has developed a strong immunity, she said, to Western restrictions, essentially saying that it's not going to have the desired impact. But then you hear from the former president, now deputy head of the Security Council, Dmitry Medvedev, saying the United States is our adversary and their talkative, quote, peacemaker, he says, has now fully embarked on the warpath against Russia. So they are having to recalibrate around this. As to the economic front, is this going to have the desired effect? Is this going to cost Russia enough to bring Putin to the table? That is just not clear yet. It depends on a number of things. Are these sanctions going to be heavily enforced by the U.S.? Is Russia going to find workarounds as it's suggested?
And that's another thing that we need to heavily be invested in making sure that happens, and not just the announcements of these sanctions, right? Which again could be a ploy. I'm not saying we have any evidence to suggest that, but after this conversation, I wouldn't put anything past these 2 bastards and be like, okay, we'll cancel this meeting. I'll announce these sanctions, but we won't fucking enforce them. It'll make it look like I'm doing something tough. It'll make it look like I'm having some impact on this. But again, it won't actually affect you guys because they won't be, strongly enforced. And again, you'll be able to find your workarounds as you normally do. But again, we need to make sure that not only are these sanctions in place, which they are, but they are being heavily enforced, and that we are seeing the impacts that we should be seeing from these sanctions.
So effectively so far in this war with things like the shadow fleet. And I think there's a big wild card around India as well. From talking to experts this morning, they import a lot of Russian oil at the moment, but they are involved in trade talks with the US, and there are suggestions that they might be likely to adhere to this US policy and perhaps cut back or stop exporting or stop importing Russian oil, and that would be a big problem for Russia. So we are really watching and trying to understand the impact of this and essentially what the US will do do going forward? How much commitment will they show to enforce these new sanctions, Kate?
Again, a huge question, because it's one thing to announce them. It's one thing to say that you're going to enforce them. It's a whole different ball game to actually enforce them when Russia inevitably tries their workarounds, inevitably tries to get around them. That's another huge talking point. That's another huge sticking point in this. Again, it's like the difference between announcing that non-existent bullshit ceasefire and actually having a ceasefire and making sure you're committed to actually seeing that ceasefire through. Right. But another thing that I wanted to, let's just see what he's talking about here. This is Peter Zalmayev. It looks like he's talking about Kharkiv. I just want to see if this is the kindergarten, if this is video footage of the kindergarten we reported yesterday that was struck.
Finally, there's been some pressure on the Hill, the normally complacent Congress, bipartisan support for some strong action on Russia.
You can hear the surprise in his voice too. Like the same thing that I was kind of feeling yesterday, the same thing that, you kind of heard from people like Preston Stewart and Arthur Rahe and Jake Bro, right? The same thing was like, it's kind of like a state of shock, a state of like, where did this come from all of us? And, even this gentleman here has kind of like, to see, some actual fucking strong rhetoric, some pressure being applied to Putin as opposed to Zelensky. It's like, whoa, again, let's make sure we're kind of taking this with a grain of salt, but it's obviously good to see good steps in the right direction.
It's been very difficult for Donald Trump, and he's seen that Vladimir Putin has not been willing to throw him any bone, meaning to make any meaningful concessions, meaning that he was not willing to make this Budapest trip for Donald Trump anything other than a repeat of the fiasco that we saw in Alaska.
And Peter, after previously threatening to supply Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, President Trump acknowledged for the first time Wednesday that he told President Zelensky he would not be giving him the long-range missiles.
Right. Again, to take the good with the bad. We talked about that, and we played the clip where Donald Trump said that, it didn't feel right to him, and that, it was a powerful weapon, and that it would probably take some U.S. involvement in order to use those. And again, I was unsure as to, the factual nature of that statement. But, knowing the way that those weapons are actually used, again, I kind of raised a similar question as to how it would be done without the direct U.S. involvement. And again, I'm not saying we shouldn't be directly involved. I think we should be, but that's what, Donald Trump is trying to avoid at all costs, is direct U.S. involvement in this. But this kind of brings me to a little bit of the other good news that we were talking about, though, which is this. And the U.S. lifting of restrictions on Ukraine using European long-range missiles. Right, which is a good. So this move coincides with This move coincides with Trump putting pressure on Moscow in talks to end the war and to withhold U.S. Tomahawk missiles from Kyiv. Right, so Trump administration has lifted key restrictions on Ukraine's use of long-range missiles provided by Western allies, enabling Kyiv to step up attacks on targets inside Russia and increase pressure on the Kremlin. U.S. officials said Wednesday. Great. That's unbelievable. Something that should have happened a long time ago. Something that should have been, again, okayed a long time ago, but again, a step in the right direction, something that will, again, increase the effectiveness of the Ukrainian strikes inside of Russia, which will, again, affect Russia's ability to, send strikes back at Ukraine. So, and then because we don't have a ton of time, I want to dive into this, because this gives us, there was a part in here I want to pull up too, which, before this part right here. So this is kind of crazy to see as well. And I'll play this video, a couple minutes of this video, but this is from the U.S. Department of the Treasury, right? And I just want to let you know, or just want to show you the language being used some here, in here again. So listen to what it says. It says, Treasury sanctions major Russian oil companies, calls on Moscow to immediately agree to ceasefire. Right. So this was a term that was being thrown around a lot by Donald Trump before Alaska. Wasn't being used at all. Wasn't being talked about at all after Alaska, but has now somehow made its way back into the fray, at least in this Treasury Department release here. Right. So a ceasefire now at least being talked about again, which is another good sign here. So let's just see if I'll play this from the beginning. We'll play a couple minutes of this, see if this gives us any more insight into these. And then there was one video that I wanted to play that gave us a little bit of information on the new Ukrainian Flamingo missile. I'm not sure if it was this one or the other one. I'll find it while this is playing. Let me play this, and then I'll find that. But hit that like button, guys. I appreciate you.
Yesterday, the United
Slava Ukraine.
States levied new sanctions on Russia for failing to negotiate in good faith, a move that Russia says both doesn't matter and is also an act of war. Now, this marks the first Russia sanctions package of the Trump administration, and it's already happened. Not in 2 weeks or 30 days. They're in place right now, and this is a really big deal. This is no doubt a step in the right direction for two main reasons. First off, the sanctions being in place today means that they are already going to have a direct impact on Russia's ability to continue this war over the long term. The second piece here is the symbolism. Look, and we've hammered it on this channel. Since Trump came into office in January, there have been no concrete steps taken to actually pressure Putin to negotiate. That changed yesterday. Look, there's been a lot of up, down, sideways. I would even argue 1 step forward, 2 steps back at times, but we can't gloss over the fact that this move laid out yesterday by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is a positive step in the right direction. Here's the secretary talking just before the announcement was made about what brought them to this point.
And this is the same clip we played on yesterday's show as well. If you want to go back and check that out, we played the interview with him and Larry Kudlow, where he kind of gave a little bit more information than Donald Trump did in his press conference.
President Putin has not come to the table in an honest and forthright manner, as we'd hoped. There were talks in Alaska. President Trump walked away when he realized that things were not moving forward.
He's the only guy in the world that quite literally looks like somebody just stuck a stick straight up his ass, right? Like literally just sat on a bike that has no bike seat, or like a chair that had been flipped over for him and his 3 buddies. I don't know. The only person in the world where it actually physically and literally looks like that. I know it's said about a lot of people, but only guy in the world actually looks like that's the case.
There have been behind the scenes talk, but I believe that the president is disappointed at the where we are in these talks. So either this evening or first thing tomorrow.
And again, we talked about this yesterday, so I'll just go on here.
The Department of the Treasury is imposing further sanctions as a result of Russia's lack of serious commitment to a peace process to end the war in Ukraine. Today's actions increase pressure on Russia's energy sector and degrade the Kremlin's ability to raise revenue for its war machine and support its weakened economy. The United States will continue to advocate for a peaceful resolution of the war, and a permanent peace depends entirely on Russia's willingness to negotiate in good faith. I'll have the Treasury Department note linked in the description below for anybody that wants to dig into the nuanced details of those financial sanctions. President Trump was asked about this during a meeting yesterday with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. Here's what he had to say about the new sanctions.
Today is a very big day in terms of what we're doing. Look, these are tremendous sanctions. These are very big. Those are against their 2 big oil companies, and we hope that they won't be on for long. We hope that the war will be settled. We just answered having to do with the various forms of missiles and everything else that we're looking at, but we don't think that's going to be necessary. We would like to see them just take the line that has been formed over quite a long period of time and go and let's go home. Last week they had almost 8,000 soldiers killed. Many Russians were killed last week. Many Ukrainians were killed last week. We think it's ridiculous, and would like to have it end.
Now, turning back to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who said, quote, "Now is the time to stop the killing and for an immediate ceasefire." Given President...
What the hell? My apologies. What the hell was just playing? Where is that, and why is it not playing on your screen is the question. That was strange. I don't know what was playing, but it wasn't the video that I was playing. But this is what I wanted to show you instead anyway, because this is, in place of the Tomahawks that we were hoping that Ukraine was going to receive. This is the Ukrainian Flamingo that everybody has been talking about, again, with a lower payload, and I think it doesn't have the range as well, but still a formidable weapon in its own right. And this is just a quick video kind of depicting that, and then I'll get into some of the thank yous to everybody. Please, I appreciate you guys, everybody that sends even $1 or $2 to help support the channel. You guys are amazing, and I make sure to highlight and give you guys a shout out at the end of the show. So that's what I'll be doing here in a couple minutes. Anybody that sent a super chat, super sticker, signed up, gave memberships as a gift, anything like that, I make sure to highlight at the end of the show. So I appreciate it. Let's just take a quick look at this because these are pretty badass too.
Ukrainian weapon production is a huge guarantee of Ukraine independence, and not only Ukrainian independence, but also European independence and European safety of the whole continent. Because right now Ukraine is holding this barrier, and let's say
The size of those fucking things, huh? Wouldn't want to see those bad boys coming overhead in your town or city anytime soon.
exporting safety to other countries which are standing behind Ukraine. The maximum range is 3,000 kilometers confirmed, with an accuracy of 14 meters to target on this distance.
3,000 kilometers with an accuracy of 40 meters. That's fucking crazy too.
The maximum speed is 900 kilometers per hour. The cruise speed can vary, and this I will not disclose. And the payload capacity is, in the moment, 1,150
It's
kilograms.
crazy. I guarantee this is happening in some fucking, undistinct location in a building you would never even know that this was happening in. It's amazing. Again, I continuously talk about what they're able to do with so little, but this is kind of crazy. Developing your own, systems like this that again rival what the United States has, at least to some effect.
It was 1,000 at the very beginning, but then we found a spot how to enlarge it a little bit. And the overall MTOV of the missile is...
I just kind of wanted to show you guys a little bit of that. There was a little bit more of this as well before we go on, because I don't know, for some reason it didn't look like this was playing, but apparently it was playing. Let me put this back on the stage for you guys. There we go.
State how important that is. I think it's a little bit silly that here we are 9 months, 10 months into this administration, and that's kind of a win. It's ridiculous that was ever really up for debate, but that's a big step. It's a positive step, something that we should be happy about. Again, this is something that is not just a positive for Ukraine, actually coming down against Russia and punishing them for what they've done, or at least imposing costs on their desire to continue this war, is good for U.S. national security, short and long term. Now, Secretary Besson asked that our allies step forward and contribute to, or at least follow these same sanctions. They are. We have just yesterday the European Union announcing their 19th sanctions package shortly thereafter. Here we have a video from Kaja Kallas, the EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and
So
Security.
this is another huge aspect of this, right? So it's not just the United States sanctions standing alone. It is the cooperation and the united front of the United States, the United Nations, NATO, all coming together to impose these sanctions and to make sure that, again, there are no end workarounds for Russia, to make sure that they are all doing their part to, again, put the squeeze on as much as possible on Russia. Because, again, if we all don't work together in this like we're supposed to, then we don't have the same effect. And again, that just goes to prolong the war, which leads to more death and suffering for more people. And that's exactly what we're trying to stop, right?
Policy, as well as the Vice President of the European Commission, talking about that 19th package.
So today we have a long day ahead, a few very important points. First, we are going to adopt the 19th package of sanctions.
And I wonder what position what position they were put in this, because I don't know if they were given advance notice of these sanctions. I know these sanctions have, people have been talking about wanting to put in place, so they're known. But as to whether or not they were going to be put in place as quickly as they were, putting the EU and NATO on the back foot, is something that I'd kind of really like to know, and how it worked behind the scenes, because it seems like she's coming out here like, all right, we got a lot of fucking work to do. This isn't something we were expecting. So now we're going to have to put together the 19th sanctions package and, to try to get that and work in alignment with the new sanctions being put out by the United States, which again, just goes to show the nature of the way that Donald Trump operates and how it just continues to throw wrenches in the works. And it's not the way that normal people operate. It's not the way that this is supposed to be undertaken. You know what I mean? It's just making this process even more difficult, even when it steps in the right direction.
has a lot of important points there regarding energy, regarding financial institutions. It is all meant to deprive Russia from the means to fund this war.
And that's all steps in the right direction. But let me see if I can start thanking people. Once again, I do apologize. And just so you don't think I'm lying to you for some reason, I'm still stuck in entry mode in my iPhone. Hopefully by tomorrow at some point, I had to do like a whole friggin' refresh on my Apple ID just to do a new friggin' phone number on there. It was ridiculous, but apparently it takes 24 hours or something, and now I gotta wait. It's a joke. It's a whole joke. But I apologize to anybody that sent a Venmo in that I don't get the opportunity to say thank you and give you a shout out like I normally do. But I promise as soon as this goddamn paperweight starts functioning like an actual iPhone again, I'll be sure to thank you guys and hit you guys with a like. You guys know that. So let me thank everybody here on YouTube. First off, thank you to everybody on Facebook. Thank you to everybody on Twitch. Thank you to everybody on Instagram. Please make sure if you're hopping out, hit that like button on the way out. Please make sure you hit, leave a comment in the chat. Goes a long way. Just a couple emojis. You wouldn't think it, but it does go a long way in showing the algorithm that you're engaged, you're involved in what's going on, and it sends it out this show to more and more people. That's our hopes. That's our goal, is to continue to grow this audience and take the burden off of the OGs that have been supporting me forever. So what do you say we get into thanking some people? Angela, thank you so much. Congratulations on 15 months. Thank you so much for your loyalty, for your contributions to the chat. A valued member of the community, and we very much appreciate you for it. Thank you much, Angela, for the $5 as well. Angela says he's also rebuilding the White House bunker. Funny how he didn't mention it, especially when it said it wasn't going to touch the original structure. Right, like the White House historian that we played on today's show said, like, don't be surprised when a lot of these other things start popping up, right? When a lot of these other bits and bobs and little ideas that he's got start coming to fruition because he sees how he's getting away with this bullshit. So you're 100% right, Angela. Thank you so much again for your contributions, and congratulations again on being here for 15 months. I really do appreciate it. 5 Alarm, thank you so much. Shout out to you for your 10. This is an act of a dictator that has no intentions of ever leaving. It's really hard to argue against that. 5 Alarm, it really is somebody that is actively trying to put so much of their stamp, so much of their name and bullshit all over this place. Again, it's either one of two things. He's either actively never trying to leave, or he knows, like I said, his reputation is completely tarnished. The historical memory of his presidencies will be looked upon as a joke, as a black eye, in the face of this fucking country. And this is his only chance again to build some sort of pyramid-like structure that he thinks nobody will be able to demolish, that will house his name on it forever, which is why we need to give it the name of the pedophile palace, which is why we need to continually call it the Epstein Ballroom or the Epstein File Storage Center, or seriously, we need to talk about having Democrats come up with a bill dedicating this ballroom if there's no other recourse, if that's what we find ourselves in. Hopefully not. But again, if that's our last bit of defiance that we have, our last act of defiance is to dedicate this ballroom to the 1 million+ Americans that lost their lives because of Donald Trump's mishandling of COVID, and watch the Republicans try to vote against that. And if they don't vote against it, and that's what it's fucking named after, let's look and watch what Donald Trump does every time he has to enter that ballroom dedicated to the 1 million+ people that he killed. Right? So thank you, 5 Alarm. I appreciate it. Oh, another one. Let's go. Shout out to you, bro. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for the 20 altogether. That ballroom is where the PDF file throne will be placed. Absolutely. Absolutely. We should continuously put different PDF thrones out there in the front of it. We've seen different sculptures and stuff being placed outside of the White House with Epstein, and there was a TV that continuously played Epstein and Trump. Like, we need to do and continuously do shit like that as well. Thank you, Coco. Thank you, 5 Alarm. Thank you, Coco, as well. Shout out to you for the $6.99. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for contributing. Big help to the channel. I really do appreciate it. Starch Manning, let's go. Is that Archie Manning, but Starchy Manning? I really do appreciate that cleverness in the name. I do appreciate the Epstein Memorial Ballroom. Let's go with it. I'm telling you. And whatever you guys want, just make sure that's what we're calling it on social media. Blast that all over the place. Hashtag pedophile palace. Hashtag Epstein file storage closet. Hashtag what was it? What was the other one? The dungeon. What was the dungeon? The hit me with it. What was it? Fuck. No, I'm missing it. What was the dungeon one? Oh, the Diddler Dungeon, right? Yep, Diddler Dungeon. That was a good one. That was a good one as well. Let's just make sure we're, continuously calling that so they get no leg up on this, right? So thank you, Stotch. Thank you, JD. Appreciate you, brother. JD always gets a JD from me. Let me see. Where are you?
We've
There you are,
endorsed
JD.
JP, right? JD Mandel, and he's doing great.
You are doing great, JD. I appreciate it, brother. Thank you so much. That goes for Mark G as well. Mark, good to see you in the last few days. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for your contributions. It's really been appreciated, really been noticed. Bozo Benny is on a roll, right? I mean, just that, I already closed it, but just that opening propaganda act of the AI going through the demolished East Wing only to have, like, Sloth dancing with Melania Trump in the middle of the ballroom was just, again, the epitome of the propaganda and the ass kissing and the boot licking and the taint smelling from these right-wing propagandists. So thank you, Mark. Thank you, Slacks, as well. Appreciate you, my brother. Love right back to you from Mel, Dungaree Dog, Logan, and everybody here. Congratulations on 16 months. I appreciate that as well. Thank you so much. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Jeff, shout out to you. Thank you so much for the 10. East Wing is the first, lady's residence. Maybe it is a marital spat gone way overboard. I wouldn't put it past him. This is the guy that does have his ex-wife buried at an unmarked grave at a random hole on his shitty golf course that is completely overgrown. So anything is possible, Jeff. I wouldn't put it past him, but I do very much appreciate your contribution. Shout out to you again. Shout out to Monica. Thank you so much for the $10 super sticker. I appreciate that. So good to see you here. I appreciate you contributing. Thank you. And shout out to 5 Alarm again. Big day for 5 Alarm. Big day. Might even be a 6 Alarm. Trump asking Putin if he could send missiles to Ukraine tells me who our POTUS really is. Yeah, I mean, again, that was probably another big sticking point. But again, that even goes to show, like, even just makes it even more crazy and mind-blowing to see, like, the reversal that we've seen just over the last few days, right? If that's who he's beholden to, then what the hell has changed, right? It's kind of crazy. And again, that's why I think it was Putin that canceled that meeting, knowing it was going to make Trump look bad and ineffective. And these are the steps that Trump has taken in retaliation for that meeting being canceled. Right. So that's just, again, my speculation, in my opinion, knowing this. So thank you, JD. Thank you, 5 Alarm, again, for your contributions. I really appreciate it. Thank you, JD, again, going right in the switch. Oh, thank you, Sandy. Let's go. Brian, I'd love to have you on as my guest to talk about the EPA and the Department of Energy. This Space TV rules. Anytime, Sandy, you just let me know. Shoot me an email. Let me know. I'd be more than happy to come on and chat with you. I really do appreciate your fight. I really do appreciate your passion and all that you do. And thank you so much for your kind and generous contributions. I'm going to let you guys go. I appreciate you. As you guys all know, I will see you Sunday for what we call the main show here. So make sure that you come and check us out. That's going to be at 1 o'clock on Sunday on the East Coast, which is 10 o'clock here on the West Coast. Again, that's what typically we call the main show. So thank you so much for all your kind contributions. Hopefully by then I have a cell phone so I can thank all of you great people that have been sending Venmos and gifts and, all those fine things. But I really do appreciate it. Make sure you're getting out. Stay proud. Stay loud, right? Find your nearest protest. Find the next rally that you're going to. Find your next group of people that you're going to bring to it, right? I really do appreciate it, but make sure you're staying safe. The biggest group of people out there is the better. That way you have all the eyes watching everybody's back, and make sure you're staying safe out there. But until Sunday, I will see you again. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you're having a great weekend. Make sure you're kicking ass at the same time. Make sure you're calling out this nonsense with the ballroom. Make sure you're calling out the fucking historical nature of what's being done at the White House. Make sure you're calling out what's going on with ICE. Make sure you're calling out the non-existent bullshit ceasefire. Make sure we're calling all this stuff out, guys. All right, I appreciate it. I'll be here Sunday to do just that. And please make sure you hit the like and the subscribe button on the way out. Send an emoji in the chat on the way out. I really do appreciate it. And I will see you guys on Sunday's show. I appreciate it. See you later. I'm Boston Brian. This is Blunt Politics. Like I said, please hit that like on the way out. It does a lot. It really does a lot. It may not seem it. And subscribe, guys. Subscribe. It's free. Doesn't cost you a dime. It takes one finger to do it. And we're on our way to 15K. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Peace. Thank you, Chewy. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. I really do appreciate that, man. Sorry I missed it. Thank you, Mods. Thank you, Rox. Thank you, Tiff. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, all you guys. I really do appreciate your help. I couldn't be here without you.
Nazis. I'm standing up here bashing the living shit out of Nazis.
Fucking Nazis.
It feels so lovely to be here tonight. What a beautiful. Give yourself a round of applause. You're so lovely. Everyone's.
Yes, of course, hence the name. Movement, it moves a certain distance, then it stops, you see. A revolution gets its name by always coming back around in your face. You tried to kill me, you son of a bitch. So welcome to the revolution.
Thanks, Yakov. You too. Take it easy, Neil. Thank you, Jeff and Robs again. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Christopher. Thank you, everybody on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitch, the whole 9 yards. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much, and I'll see you Sunday, all right? Take care of yourself.
Referred to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small.
Hey, you got a little chubby going there.
I'm just candy. I got a bowl of chocolate pudding in my underpants.
You're a nation that just recently heard that Saudi Arabia and Russia will repeat your army manned the air. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do. I am the chosen one.
Or go fuck yourself.
Obama.
Call them dumps, big massive dumps.
Yesterday's a hard word for me.
Oh, get those lights off! Off! Turn them off. They're too bright. Turn them off.
They're just getting acclimated. You know what that means, acclimated? You'll have a group of Venezuelan killers, street gangs, occupying the town with MK-47s. I know that gun very well. I got to know. I've become an expert on guns.
Always calling me Little Marco. And I'll admit, the guy, he's taller than me. He's like 6'2", which is why I don't understand why his hands are the size of someone who's 5'2".
For the rest of my life, I have the curse that I have little hands. Little hands.
Hey, you got a little chubby going there.
Yeah, I ain't falling for no banana in my tailpipe.
Take it easy, guys. Make sure you hit that like on the way out. I really appreciate it. I'll see you later.
The big, fat, sloppy United States.